guys, welcome back to a new video. If you watched my channel trailer or my 1-year vegan video, you will know that I have type 1 diabetes. I did mention in my 1-year video that going vegan has helped me manage my diabetes, and I wanted to go more into depth with that so I can help other people. And now you're probably like,
oh my god, Aisha, you have diabetes?
I do, but it's not the type of diabetes that you hear all the time. Please keep in mind that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm just speaking from my personal experience and from the research I've done. The stuff you see about diabetes on the news, like 99% of the time, they're talking about type 2. And there is a big difference between type 1 and type 2. And people just love to lump type 1 and type 2 together, even though they're completely different diseases and they happen for completely different reasons. And when I tell some people that, they're just like,
oh, well, you can cure it if you go raw vegan, you know, or if you go raw till 4.
No, it's not that simple. Now let me explain the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. So basically, for an unknown reason, your immune system starts to attack the insulin producing cells in your pancreas called the beta cells and destroys them until you have little to no insulin production left. Now, type 2 diabetes is when your body is producing insulin, but your body is unable to use the insulin properly to get your blood sugar down to a normal level. And type 2 is not an autoimmune disease. Anyone can get type 1 diabetes. Doesn't matter if you're fat, you're skinny, you're young, or you're old. At the moment, type 2 can be reversed and type 1 cannot. Also, in most cases, type 2 diabetics are not insulin dependent. Type 1s, on the other hand, are definitely insulin dependent. Type 1 and type 2 can be hereditary. My late uncle had type 1 diabetes, and that gave me the predisposition for it. I think like any other person would, when they get diagnosed with a serious illness, they're like, oh my god, I need to research, I need to find out how I can make this better, or if I can make this better. And I did that for hours and hours and hours. I came across a couple of studies that were done that linked cow's milk as a trigger to type 1 diabetes. Nisha from Lose Your Veganity actually goes over why cow's milk can trigger diabetes, and I'll show it to you right now.
Specifically in the case of cheese, there's casein, which has the same 17 amino acids as the beta cells on your pancreas. And so the introduction of casein in your diet can really disrupt the normal function of your pancreas, which is why people who eat lots of cheese have a much greater chance of getting diabetes type 1 and type 2.
I consumed dairy from a very young age. And when I mean very young age, I mean I was drinking cow's milk out of a bottle. And I was obsessed with cheese. I loved ice cream, cream cheese, cheesecake, like, especially when I was a vegetarian. I was vegetarian for about 4.5 years before I went vegan. And yes, I was diagnosed before I was vegan. And during the time when I was a vegetarian, because I wasn't eating meat, I ended up consuming a lot more dairy. And that piece of information got me thinking that, hey, I could go vegan. Maybe that would help. Maybe going plant-based would help me control or manage my sugars better. And it definitely did. About 4 months after I was diagnosed, I went vegan. And I kept getting low blood sugars, even though, you know, I was eating the same amount of carbs, I was injecting myself with the same amount of insulin. So I decided to decrease my dose for meals and increase my insulin to carb ratio. And I decided to do more research, and I found out that animal fats, saturated fats, and animal proteins can actually cause insulin resistance and can cause your blood sugar to spike. For every time, let's say, you eat a meal that contains carbs, every diabetic has their own insulin to carb ratio. So say I'm eating a meal and there are 30 grams of net carbs in there. Net carbs means you don't add in the fiber because fiber doesn't affect blood sugar. Okay, I'm gonna eat 30 grams of carbs for this meal. I need to take the right amount of insulin for that so my blood sugar can get to a normal level and won't be too high or too low. Currently, my insulin to carb ratio is 120, so I take 1 unit of rapid acting insulin for every 20 grams of carbs. Now, before I get into this, let me explain what honeymooning is. Now, it's not like going to the Bahamas, but it is a good thing for diabetics. It is a period in which your pancreas starts to produce insulin again. It might be a little, it might be a lot, depending on the person. So shortly after my diagnosis, and then when I've been on insulin for about, I think, a month, I started honeymooning. And I have been honeymooning ever since. So right now, my pancreas is still producing a little bit of insulin, but not enough. But enough that my blood sugars are actually pretty perfect. When I was diagnosed, I got in touch with other type 1 diabetics that were diagnosed around the same time as me. None of them were vegetarian, and none of them were vegan either. Now, talking to them today, I'm actually the only one that's still honeymooning, and the only one that has really good blood sugars. And I feel like me eating plant-based has something to do with that. Even Dr. John McDougall and Dr. Michael Greger have helped people manage their diabetes better by getting rid of all animal products and switching to a plant-based diet. And I'm not the only one who has experienced a significant improvement in terms of insulin sensitivity and overall diabetes management. Mindful Diabetic Robbie, he has a YouTube channel. He eats like 900 grams of carbs a day. He's a raw vegan. Dr. Cyrus Kambata, he's an athlete, also a high carb vegan, high carb diabetic on YouTube, and Raw Maple Road. So I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that this has happened to. If you watching this video, if you're a type 1, I can guarantee you that a plant-based diet could help you so much. I found that when I was eating high fat, like when I was a vegetarian before I was vegan, my blood sugars were much harder to control. And now, 95% of the time, my blood sugars are great. I remember, like, my doctors and my diabetic educators would tell me to eat low carb, and that's what I was doing, and it was not helping me. And now, as a high carb vegan, I feel amazing. I don't even think about my diabetes as much as I used to, because it's not that much of a problem for me. My last HbA1c was 5.6, and that was from January. And that is amazing. That is considered really good for someone that has type 1 diabetes. Your HbA1c is basically an average reading of your blood glucose levels for the past 3 months. If you're a type 1 or even a type 2 watching this video, I'm sure that going plant-based can help you. The better your blood sugars are, the less chance of you developing complications, and that is a really big deal for diabetics. If you're, a non-vegan, a non-diabetic watching this video, if I could go back in time, if there was a chance of me not triggering type 1 diabetes by not consuming animal products, I would do it in a heartbeat. I had absolutely no idea before I was diagnosed what type 1 diabetes was, or even the fact that dairy can trigger it. And I just felt the need to share it with you guys so it doesn't happen to you either, because it's not fun. Pricking your fingers, giving yourself insulin injections is not fun at all. And if you could have a chance to avoid getting that by doing something so simple as to just not eat animal products, why wouldn't you? I will list a whole bunch of resources and YouTube channels down below that can give you more information about type 1 diabetes and plant-based diets. So I'm gonna end this video off here. If you have any questions or anything, leave them down below or contact me on my social media. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe. Bye!